Welcome. This is a chilling tale from the White Rabbit Witch. Another night, another story that quietly slips into your room. Today's story is called The Lucky Gift Box. Now imagine this. One day, on your doorstep, sits a beautifully wrapped box. Shiny ribbon. No return address, no message. Just a small note that says, "A gift for you." Would you bring that box inside your house? This is the story of a man who did. All it took was a moment of curiosity and a hint of greed. And once he opened it, his world was never the same again. Before we open the door to this tale, please make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. Your subscription is a great help to me, the White Rabbit Witch, who keeps this haunted channel alive. The Lucky Gift Box begins now. The incident began in March of 2010 in a quiet residential neighborhood of Oregon, USA. At the time, Thomas Reed was 38 years old. Having divorced a few years prior, he lived alone, working as a marketing consultant from home, leading a quiet and uneventful life. One morning in March, while brewing his usual cup of coffee, Thomas opened his front door and found a small gift box waiting for him. Wrapped in red paper and tied with a golden ribbon, the box was neat and clean. There was no name, no return address, only a small note attached. It simply read, "To you." He looked around, but there were no signs of anyone nearby. Though puzzled, Thomas brought the box inside without much hesitation. But here's where it begins. He hadn't even opened the box yet. But from the moment it entered his home, something had changed. There it sat, quietly, in the center of his living room. The ribbon still untouched, the wrapping still intact, and yet the air in the room felt different. Thomas would later say, "It was like the air shifted. Everything got quiet. It felt like time just stopped." He looked at the clock again. Just minutes ago, it had clearly read 8 a.m., but now it showed 11:47. Was it a mistake? Or had something already begun, without him even realizing it? The box had not yet been opened, but from that moment on, Thomas could no longer be sure if he was the owner of the house or merely a guest. The day after that eerie stillness, Thomas finally decided to untie the ribbon on the box. Wearing his usual clothes, he carefully opened it. Inside was another, smaller box, and resting on top of it, an old envelope. The envelope looked as if it had been written decades ago, its paper yellowed with time. The seal was still moist, as if it had just been pressed closed moments before. Inside the envelope were just 3 lines. "You have been chosen. If you do not pass this box on to the next person, your luck ends here." At first, Thomas assumed it was a prank. He thought someone must have set it up as a joke. He searched the inside of the box, but there were no clues about who had sent it or where it had come from. But then, something began to change. Ever since the box had been opened, Thomas's daily routine started to slip. His smartphone alarms would ring a few minutes early, or a few minutes late. Emails would appear marked as read before he even opened them. The lights in his living room would turn on or off without him touching a thing. He blamed it on stress at first. Maybe he was just tired. But after a few days, these strange distortions only became more frequent and more noticeable. On the 3rd night, he was reading a book in the living room when he happened to glance at the TV screen. The TV was off, but reflected in the black screen was a figure sitting across from him, a figure that wasn't him. Later, Thomas would say, "I swear I was alone, but there was something else in that reflection." At that moment, he looked at the clock once again. It read approximately 11:40, not 8 o'clock, not 9 o'clock, but 11:40 again. Ever since the day he received the box, 11:40 had been drawing closer, and had never missed a night. About a week had passed since Thomas opened the box. He had grown afraid of facing the windows. Even while sitting in the living room or behind a closed bedroom door, he could feel eyes on his back, always watching, always present. Days earlier, Thomas had seen someone standing outside his window, gazing in as though waiting for him to appear. The figure didn't flinch or look away. It simply stared. When their eyes met, the person turned and slowly walked behind the alley. What unsettled Thomas was that the face looked familiar. It took him a moment, but he recognized the figure. It's watching into it seemed him that Dueni, a neighbor who had moved away 3 years ago. The house was empty now, and there was no reason for that person to return. To confirm what he saw, Thomas walked to the old house. The windows were shut, mail was stacked by the door, and the interior was lifeless. There was, however, one thing out of place: a small folded note wedged into the mailbox. That same night, as Thomas returned to his own home, he found something else. Hanging from his front door handle was a different slip of paper. The texture, the size, the handwriting, it was identical to the note that had come with the box. It read, "You still haven't passed it on." His unease deepened. He installed security cameras, one at the front door, one in the living room, and one in his bedroom. If someone was playing a trick on him, he wanted evidence. But what he found the next morning stole the breath from his chest. From 11:36 a.m. to 11:44 a.m., every camera had the same problem. That stretch of time was simply gone. Not skipped, not glitched, deleted, as if those minutes had never existed. And just before the feed cut out, the bedroom camera showed something emerging from the shadow beside his bed. It was low, crawling forward, with twisted limbs and no visible face. In just 2 frames, the shape crept toward Thomas's sleeping form. He immediately shut off all the equipment. That night, with every light turned off, Thomas sat silently in his living room, staring out the window. Under the flickering glow of the streetlight, he saw it again, a silhouette, motionless at the edge of the road. At first he assumed it was a person, but the longer he looked, the less human it appeared. He glanced at the clock. It was 11:40 p.m. Then the figure slowly turned its head and looked directly at him. In that moment, Thomas knew. What he had locked eyes with was not a person. And whatever it was, Thesis, it was still watching him. Ever since he received the box, Thomas had been avoiding it more and more. He didn't look at it, didn't touch it. Yet, the atmosphere inside his home began to shift. Whenever he got close, it became hard to breathe. Cold sweat ran down his back. Eventually, he made a decision. This thing, he shouldn't be in my hands. He packed the box into a paper bag and drove to a waste disposal site on the outskirts of the city. Left it there, quietly, without a trace. That night, feeling slightly relieved, he returned home and froze. Right there, in the middle of the living room, between the sofa and the table. The box had returned, exactly the way he first saw it. Neat ribbon, pristine wrapping. No one had entered the house. No sign of forced entry, no tampering with the door or windows. Then who placed it here? Could it have been someone? Or perhaps something? From the ceiling, droplets began to fall. The fridge, filled with the stench of rotten meat, and the bedroom wallpaper started to show deep scratches, as if clawed by fingernails. Thomas grabbed the box again, rushing to leave the house, but the front door wouldn't open. The windows stayed shut, all communication cut off. Isolated. That word echoed in his mind. Behind him, he felt something. Slowly he turned. There it was, the lid of the box, quietly open. He hadn't touched it. No one had. And yet, it opened on its own. Inside the box, something was moving. In the middle of the living room, Thomas couldn't take his eyes off the box. The lid was fully open, and inside, only pitch-black darkness, a space where no light could reach. Cold breath drifted from within, and then Thomas saw it. Inside that darkness, an eye, staring directly at him. He turned to run toward the front door, but something grabbed his ankle, a smooth, cold hand. He was dragged across the floor. His body was slowly, gradually, perceptibly swallowed into the box. They say no one ever saw him again. There were no missing person reports, no panic, no chaos. It was as if he had been erased. Every trace of him, gone, they say. A few months later, on the outskirts of a quiet town, in front of a small, single-family house, someone approached the door, a figure visible only in silhouette. In their hand, a gift box, tied neatly with a ribbon. They quietly pressed the doorbell. Ding-dong. Without a word, they placed the box at the doorstep and disappeared into the darkness of the alley. No CCTV, no footprints. Has a new victim been chosen? Or perhaps this closely one of the Proddies and me met? That silhouette was Thomas himself. Yeshua Kaneo Lao Chunthyan, the gift we believe in. Was it truly lucky? No one knows. Chiropactor lens. That why. He wasn't been confident in him, with just Thomas and Muth, a grating eye, high around, a kid, dubbe, to sant, even now.